Welcome into this MPW Digital Extra here on this Friday afternoon. Chase Parham. I am in Oxford. You see Neal McCready over there. Last time we tried this, he was in the middle of nowhere, Texas. Now he is in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. Headed back after flying into Oklahoma City, trying to get back to Arkansas and then Mississippi. Um, Lots to talk about here. We won't be terribly long, but I hope that his service holds up. We'll do the best we can. Not our fault. Just warning you as we're getting going. And frankly, I've had a little bad luck with that. 2 days ago, we had an internet outage that affected a lot of Mississippi. And then last night, we were about 5 minutes from the end of the MPW Digital postgame show when there was an Oxford power outage on my side of town. So again, nothing to do with me, nothing to do with even Spark, but a couple days in a row with some weird stuff going on. Ole Miss falling to Miami 31-27 last night in the Fiesta Bowl. And then today, Ole Miss finding out, or sorry, at least going public. I think they probably already knew, but going public that Trinidad Chambliss has been denied a waiver by the NCAA. Tom Mars has responded. Ole Miss has responded. And Ole Miss has to figure out the quarterback situation. So that's the setup here this afternoon. Again, we'll be with you a little bit to go over it. Neal, I assume you are completely and utterly dog tired right now as we're getting started.
Yeah, I'm pretty zonked. I got back to the resort where we were staying, where all the media stuff was in Scottsdale. I guess it was about midnight Mountain Time, and a lot of those guys, they take the very first shuttle to the stadium and get there like 7 hours before the game starts. I didn't do that. Actually, and I was glad. I went into Old Scottsdale and got some lunch and then got back to the hotel, got ready and went. And I got there 2 hours before kickoff as it was, but I wasn't hungry for the dinner that they served before the game. And so by the time the game ended, I was starving. And the Fiesta Bowl people had food out, salmon and chicken, and it was nice. So I ate late, and then Carson called me, and so I talked to him for a little while. And by the time I kind of went to bed, it was about 3 in the morning, and I set an alarm for 6:30, but I woke up before 6:30 because Carson had to fly to Chicago today for something, and so he was like, "Hey, will you make sure I'm up?" And so that was on the back of my mind, and so I didn't sleep well. And then I got to the airport in Phoenix and flew to Oklahoma City, and now I'm driving. So yeah, I'm a little worn out. When the sun goes down in a couple of hours, I think your boy's gonna have a tough time at that point.
We'll see how far you get at this point, but it's all good. We'll set up this on the Chambliss situation. So again, Trinidad Chambliss had been trying to get a sixth year of eligibility regarding a 2022 season when he had some respiratory issues, had essentially chronic tonsillitis was part of it. I think mono was part of it as well, and the NCAA has rendered a decision on that finally today. I love the timing. I've been waiting for weeks and weeks and weeks, and the timing
I
comes down
think
here. Go ahead.
Chase, I think, and I'm basing this on Pete Golding's answer last night. I think he heard yesterday.
Yeah, that would make sense. Don't do it day of game. Don't put it out. Let him play, and then we'll go from there. The NCAA, it's on. All this is on Rebels 24/7 on the message board. Talk about it. Join our community. Would appreciate it. Again, rebels247.com. The NCAA says in November, Ole Miss filed a waiver request for football student athlete Trinidad Chambliss seeking to extend his 5-year eligibility clock, citing an incapacitating illness or injury. Approval requires schools to submit medical documentation provided by a treating physician at the time of a student's incapacitating injury or illness, which was not provided. The documents provided by Ole Miss and the students prior to the prior school, Ferris State, include a physician's note from a December 2022 visit, which stated the student athlete was, quote, doing very well since he was seen in August 2022. Additionally, the student athlete's prior school indicated it had no documentation on medical treatment, injury reports, or medical conditions involving the athlete during the time frame, and cited, quote, developmental needs and our team's competitive circumstances as its reason the student athlete did not play in the 2022-2023 season. The waiver request was denied, and they go on to talk about all it aligns with other things and whatnot and all that stuff. But that's the main part of the situation there in that. We'll take this in multiple parts because I want to read Tom Marr's statement in a minute. Keith Carter had a statement as well, but and I'm seeing in the stream what's Fair State doing or not doing and all that kind of situation. They didn't have any documentation. They didn't do much with it in real time, and why is AJ calling? I guess we can talk to him if we want. Did you set that up, Neil?
No.
Okay. Documentation and whatnot, I get, but they didn't have it, and they had said what the reasons was. Like, I guess I'm kind of in the middle a little bit right here, Neil. You tell me what you think. It's not Ferris State's responsibility to change their stance from that time period. Like, in all the ways that I do find this being ridiculous, simply because of the NCAA's uneven policies and selective enforcement and all those different things, I am having a hard time necessarily putting this on Ferris State as this thing plays out.
Yeah, I think Ferris State gets. So I'm speaking on this somewhat educated, probably nowhere near as educated as I would like to be to really dive into this. But obviously, you and I have both talked to a lot of people about this over the course of the last several months. I think Ferris State's stance is, or concern is, they're jeopardizing their legality, if you will, their NCAA compliance, if they go back and basically create or amend documents from years ago. The documentation in real time from there in 2022 doesn't really exist. And let's be clear here. The Ole Miss staff knows it. The LSU staff knows it because they were at Ole Miss when this conversation was going on. So, it's not as simple as just create the documents. And then secondly, obviously, the NCAA, love them or hate them, they always have to think and do think about precedent. And I know people mention like TJ Finley, and my answer to all of that is I don't know. Okay? But in this case, I always heard, I think you'll concur. I hope you'll concur. I don't want to be on this island by myself. I always heard that Trinidad didn't have the greatest case in the world.
Yeah, I mean, even Tom Mars mentions, and I'm going to read his statement in a minute, that this was not unexpected. I think in both what people thought from the way the rule was written, especially prior to Mars' involvement. Because, look, Mars is an attorney. I mean, he's very good at what he does, especially in relation to the NCAA, but he is putting toward a plaintiff's statement, if you will, here, and arguing his case. The schools, Ole Miss and LSU, prior to that point, did not feel good about the waiver request, about the documentation. I have that on very, very good order, and had been proceeding, especially in recent times, in a way that the waiver would not be granted and how they are approaching things at that point. Mars has come out and said, here, let me get the entire thing up. Sorry, that was cut off a little bit. Here we go. I'm disappointed but not surprised. The last time I checked, however, the only score that matters is the one at the end of the fourth quarter. I assume that Ole Miss will file an appeal with the NCAA, but that's their decision to make. However, there's now an opportunity to move this case to a level playing field where Trinidad's rights will be determined by a Mississippi judiciary instead of some bureaucrats in Indianapolis who couldn't care less about the law or doing the right thing. Whether to pursue that course of action is a decision only Trinidad and his parents can make. So Mars insinuating that Ole Miss will appeal, and Keith Carter has since seconded that. I'll read that in a second. And that Trinidad and his parents will make the decision on whether to pursue legal action following that point. Mars' statement pretty much reads exactly like I expected Marr's statement to read.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they did an NIL deal with Ole Miss for 2026 so that they could establish here's what damages you are incurring upon him when you disallow his eligibility. So there's a number there. In this case, I think it's roughly $5 million.
And now,
That's
real
what it's
quick,
worth.
let me cut you off real quick. It's rev share, not NIL, and that's very important here because that is more of a guaranteed amount, which would help Mars in court theoretically, because it is showing actual loss that Ole Miss was guaranteeing from a payment standpoint versus NIL it would be frankly illegal at this point to guarantee and presumptive to some extent. So it being rev share is a it's two things. One, it's very key to the case, and two, it almost makes me wonder if it was done strictly for Trinidad's benefit that way, because I think that it's a little bit of an odd way to do that contract, but it fits into what they're trying to accomplish with the waiver here. Because if you look at it, Neil, that's
Yeah,
that's more than 1/3 of Ole Miss's total rev share amount for the year.
yeah. This was me making the mistake of not clarifying here. What in my head I know, but in
Yeah.
my in my vernacular, because I don't really believe that there are going to be real limits on this. I just lump it all into one thing, which is wrong. I'm theoretically right, but I'm technically wrong. Thank you for the correction.
It helps everybody else as we're talking. That was the point. Keith Carter
Yeah,
follows
yeah,
this up
absolutely.
with we are disappointed with today's announcement by the NCAA and plan to appeal the decision to the committee level, meaning there's an NCAA appeals committee that will now take the case on. Additionally, we will continue to work in conjunction with Trinidad's representatives and other avenues of support, meaning I'm going to help Tom Mars sue should Tom Mars want to sue. That's the layman's way to decipher what Keith said right there. And look, this is where I have the problem. Is on paper Trinidad did not have a very good case. I think that's pretty obvious. I think that's a pretty known thing. Um, I think that's again that's something that everybody has known to this extent. The issue is like somebody says here, Diego Pavia played 60 something games. He got an extra year. He's got 2 extra years or whatnot. And it's that the NCAA says that if you go junior college, that kept you from using eligibility in ways to make money or to get your NIL or to get the money or to go through the whole process, that you lost income possibilities by that counting against your eligibility. I get that Division II is an NCAA level, and that's what the justification is. But that is where, if you use common sense and logic, it's kind of falling on deaf ears for me. Because in no world is playing at Ferris State any different monetarily than playing at freaking ICC. Like, you're still in the same boat of not maximizing your revenue. So the NCAA using that as the argument, instead of just literally saying, hey, it's an NCAA level tough crap, that's where it's ludicrous and you start getting into we're just doing what the NCAA always done, which is making up weird exceptions to rules that don't make sense. That's where we are.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's that issue. What does this mean for Ole
And the part that
Miss?
I don't
Yeah, go
know,
ahead.
well, the part that I don't know and that people are going to ask, and it's a legitimate question, and I mean, this is where I don't have a knowledge of contract law or damage law or any of that, right? I mean, Tom Mars, his reputation, and maybe this is legend in the state of Arkansas, I don't know, but he supposedly has scored the highest score ever on the Arkansas bar. I don't know
Okay.
if that's true or not. That tells you how bright the guy is. I mean, you couldn't have better legal representation. So, I'm sure that he will mount a very efficient, convincing fence of Trinidad. But in terms of how long that takes, what are the what is the procedure? you can't just take it right to the Mississippi Supreme Court. You've got to go somewhere first. How long does all of that take? Can you get a restraining order? If you get a restraining order, can he still play? Those are questions that need to be answered. But here on this Friday afternoon, when I've landed, and I don't know those answers. I couldn't begin to answer those questions.
That seems to be where it's headed. Would be your next move would be as you said, a restraining order, which would keep him at least in the fold as this conversation plays out. I think that would be a next move, and then you go from there. But where I was going here is that this is putting Ole Miss in a very difficult, weird spot because if there's even a chance that Trinidad Chambliss is your quarterback next year, you are running through that opportunity and you're defending the kid and you're doing everything you can do to take care of one of your own through this process. You're not going to turn your back on him or violate anything or get out of the money or the contract that you've already situated with him. You're going to follow it all the way through to the extent that he and his family want you to follow at this point. However, you also have to figure out your quarterback situation for 2026. And it's not a guarantee by any means that Trinidad Chambliss will be eligible in 2026. Maybe he is, and maybe this is all a nothing burger, but as of right now, he's not eligible. Thus, you have to figure that out. I do expect Deuce Knight to commit, or at least commit publicly imminently. That's been expected. Might even already be done, but Deuce Knight, the Mississippi native coming from Auburn. And what's handy for Ole Miss about Deuce Knight is that he is more than willing to be one of two quarterbacks in this class. Either be a quarterback with Trinidad Chambliss next season or be one of two quarterbacks that Ole Miss signs for 2026 and beyond. Where Ole Miss is going after that, they need a veteran. They need a guy that's been around a little bit. That's why I know, Neil, we've reported that Hassan Longstreet from USC has gotten in the portal. There's at least some level of interest there, but his clock is very similar to Deuce Knight's, not similar to an older quarterback that would come in with experience and movement. The one name that will not go away is DJ Lagway. It seemed to be over a couple days ago, and I was a little shocked. Now that I'm thinking about it, about a week ago, I was talking to somebody fairly close to Ole Miss's situation, and they were saying that thought Lagway might be available a little longer because his agent and his representation was telling him, look, some school's really going to need a quarterback. Some school that's in the top 20, top 25, just wait it out. You'll be a higher commodity, better commodity down the road, even a week, than you would be right now jumping in and making a decision to let it move a little bit because DJ Lagway is not the quarterback that's sort of setting everything else in motion. That's Sam Levitt, and that was Josh Hoover and some other guys in the process. And instead, he was announced a couple days ago that he was headed to Baylor. I think that's his dad's alma mater, had some history with the Bears to play for Dave Aranda. And then today, once it came out that Trinidad Chambliss was not currently eligible, DJ Lagway says that he is holding off on a public commitment and he is still taking visits, and Ole Miss is being prominently mentioned as one of the candidates to remain in the DJ Lagway sweepstakes. Again, the former Florida quarterback that Ole Miss has seen multiple times in the last couple seasons. He's gotten a lot of billing. He's still got a lot of rawness to him. I told Neil he's not one of my favorite quarterbacks to just watch play every week by any means, but when you're looking for options that are in the portal right now, he has played a lot of football, and I understand why you bring him in and see what's going on there at that juncture. Because, look, right now there aren't a ton of options in the portal, number one, and number two, this is just me mentioning this. I'm not hinting or intimating anything. The portal doesn't close for 7 more days. I mean, there is a possibility of more quarterbacks or one golden quarterback jumping in the portal at some point because let's not act like there aren't conversations going in every direction right now, guys.
Oh, 100%. I mean, there almost certainly will be quarterbacks who jump in the portal who you didn't think would jump in the portal. I think Deuce Knight's been privately committed since at least Monday. I have reason to believe that. Yeah, I agree with you. I think there were people in his orbit who wanted him to go someplace where he could be a starter. I think there are also people in his orbit who have his best interest at heart who know he's not ready to be an SEC starter and that he can use a year of development behind another quarterback. I know for a fact that Ole Miss has been at least kicked the tires on Longstreet. I don't know where that stands today. He got in the portal yesterday. Somebody on Twitter went after me about Longstreet yesterday. It was weird. Um,
Really?
yeah, it was just one guy. It was just, I don't know. Who cares? But, I'm with you on Lagway. I agree. I dread, in a world where DJ Lagway comes to Ole Miss, I dread watching the spin on that from some, because it's going to be dizzying. Because he can't suck in the middle of November and suddenly be awesome in the middle of January. It just doesn't work like that. I shouldn't, but it probably will if it came to that. Look, here's the thing. As long as Chambliss is a possibility, an elite quarterback is going to be hesitant at a minimum. And an elite quarterback is going to require elite quarterback money. And if you're Ole Miss, and maybe this doesn't matter, you've got money that would be committed to Chambliss, money that would be committed to Knight, and then money that would be committed to quarterback X. It's an awfully expensive quarterback room for a team that, as we saw last night, has and needs to spend a lot of money on defense.
I made the joke on the board a minute ago. Yeah, you would just be set up with, sure, you would have a Heisman contender in Chambliss, and you'd have pretty good, capable backups, but you would also have the most expensive quarterback room in history. And what does that mean for the rest of your roster and everything else? If you haven't listened, by the way, to the MPW Digital postgame show presented by Realtree last night, Siskey deep dove pretty good on some of the ways that schools are skirting the revenue sharing situation on paper, at least using insurance companies and paying premiums out of rev share, but having bonuses and different things tied to production that essentially create extra revenue that does not go through the rev share system or NIL Go. So, like anything else, you put systems in place and smart people immediately start finding loopholes to that through third parties and whatnot. So it seemed like a very obvious way that you can understand how teams are not just simply paying the $18 million in rev share across all sports every year, and then also using NIL Go approved NIL money at the same time. So just a little heads up on that if you have not heard. It was probably in the middle of the show, maybe middle back half, something like that. Maybe the most expected news possible today: Winston Watkins jumping into the portal. The Ole Miss wide receiver is
No,
now
really?
officially in the portal. Yeah, apparently. I'm going to crystal ball
Yeah,
LSU, Neil. Can I go do that? Can I go crystal ball LSU? I feel confident.
I think that would be the safest crystal ball in the history of crystal balls.
Do I get like points or what? What do I get if I get it right? Do I get points?
I don't know how that works. I think you get like maybe trophy points or something. You get some sort of bonus magic
Oh,
thing on your shield or something. I don't know. I
oh.
don't know how that. I don't know what the reward system is. But yeah, you probably ought to go ahead and knock that out, because that's probably going to happen quite quickly.
Wicked Brew says 35 minutes in for the
Okay.
Siskey insurance talk last night. So if you want to go, hang that out, hang out, that's where it is. But now look, Ole Miss, they've done a lot of good work in retention. I think they'll probably have their hold breath moment for a little while here, because there's still chances of guys that have re-signed asking for more, or we saw with Damon Williams last night and yesterday that the rev share buyouts are real. That was prohibitive, which put Damon Williams back at Washington. So it's not as easy to leave as it once was. This is a new game when it at least comes to the rev share, which is good. Like, you needed some sort of guardrail. So this
Yes.
does give you something. I mean, the whole
Yes.
country should have been rooting for Washington and Jed Fish in this argument, in this conversation, and they were, and they're going to win. So that's good. He's back at Washington, because it would have cost LSU $4 million against its rev share and just $4 million, period, not counting what they were paying Damon Williams to sign him. That is very prohibitive, and that is one of the first things we have in this world that was good for college athletics. That's one. We got one
No, you
with a
got to
bullet.
put buyouts on. You've got to put buyouts on these contracts that are valid. If you're going to have unlimited transfer, you have to have buyouts on the contracts that have to be paid. Simple as that. That at least puts some form of a guardrail, maybe a soft foam guardrail, but a guardrail nonetheless that gives some schools a certain degree of protection. Now, you've got to protect the player too. You know, if the player signs a multi-year deal and the school decides that the player sucks and they want to move him, they should have to pay him off. Maybe that's where all this is headed, because if you're not going to go to some sort of a unionized deal where you have a collective bargaining agreement that's binding between the two sides, that's probably where this is headed. And yeah, the Damon Williams staying at Washington is a small win for sanity and stability in a sport that has very little of either.
Because what we found out, going back to the previous conversation for a second, is that with this loophole with the insurance situation and all that, you don't even have a semblance of a salary cap. It's just if you have the money, pay it, and you try to go month to month. And it's the way we laugh here, because any SEC, Big Ten, I guess any conference really at this point, their CFOs are not playing real accounting is like a private business would. I mean, we're doing things that a corporate auditor would come in and go, "What in the hell are all of you people doing right now?" And yet we pay
Oh yeah.
everything week to week and month to month and hold on for dear life at this point. So I did see Miami had a big positive, because they, unlike Ole Miss and the SEC schools, the ACC does not take a cut of their CFP winnings. So Miami, any money they have made from playing in the college football playoff, they simply get to put in their pocket, which I think is going to end up being about $20 million. So
And then they're gonna get a win also. They get a $3 million travel thing for playing in the championship, and
and it's at
presumably
home.
they won't need to use all that. Yeah, it's at home.
Oh, really? I
Although
didn't know that part.
they'll probably still be required to stay at the hotel and all of those things, but I don't know.
Ole Miss
That's a
ended
that's a
up.
weird fan base, man.
Oh, is it really? Yeah, I mean, I've only dealt with them in baseball, and
Yeah,
that's been a
just
long time ago.
kind of a polar opposite of Ole Miss. Let's put it that way. Nobody needed to change colors to know who was who. They dress a little differently. They're a little rougher around the edges than the Ole Miss crowd. And
Yeah.
the Michael Irvin, Ray Lewis on the sideline thing is just kind of bizarre. I mean, I heard people going, "How cool is that?" I was like, I don't know. Is it cool?
It's kind of just their entire MO, though.
Yeah,
It's who they are as a program. Well, it's funny, though, because it is absolutely what their public profile is as a program, but it doesn't necessarily fit Cristobal, who's so buttoned up and just straightforward and whatnot and everything that he does. So it's an odd marriage. It's a required marriage, is what it is for that program.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's that is one stoic guy, man. He has no. I don't think he's fun at parties.
No, no, no. He was uncomfortable. Well, both of them were highly not sure what to do with the fruit baskets at the press conference. I did really laugh out loud just from watching the video of the fruit baskets at the
Yeah,
head
yeah.
coach press conference. I mean, Pete and Mario just holding their chocolates and fruits and whatever else was in those big baskets, and then Cristobal getting fairly annoyed by all the questions being directed to both coaches throughout the press conference. He's his
Yeah,
his mannerisms were odd.
he was annoyed in general. Um, those baskets were massive, by the way. I mean, My God, they must have weighed 50 pounds.
Well, when
So
you
I
have
don't
a
know.
trophy that weighs 200 or whatever, I mean, everything's got to be heavy, right?
I guess so, yeah. And then they just take the ball off of it and wave it around.
I was looking
I'm
this
in
up. Go ahead.
Chakota, Oklahoma. I was
Is
just
that
telling
where
you,
you're
I'm in
at?
Chakota, Oklahoma. Yeah, I just passed by Ray Grandaff Stadium, home of the Chakota, whatever they are.
Isn't that Carrie Underwood's hometown?
Chakota? I
Yeah.
don't know.
For some
Maybe
reason,
so.
that is sticking out in my head as you say that. I think that's Carrie Underwood's hometown.
How about that?
Let's look it up.
Okay.
Carrie Underwood hometown. Checotah, Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's where
And
I
there
am.
wasn't a big freaking sign when you got there?
Maybe there wasn't. I didn't see it. Tell you what, she had nothing but time to focus on singing. I can see that.
Not much in Checotah.
I mean, there's no reason to skip the singing lesson. Ain't nothing else to do.
The stream is equal parts impressed and disturbed that I pulled that out of my in a couple seconds there. Yeah, it's probably valid.
I passed through Henrietta a little while ago. That's Troy Aikman's hometown.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was a Trivial Pursuit state champion in junior college. Just saying. So
There you go.
it's a true story.
I believe you. Very, congratulations. That is awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Good for you.
Um, Sorry, I'm completely distracted now. I apologize. They say there is a
But I
sign.
mean,
Go
okay.
ahead.
I'm sure
Yeah,
there
my
is.
bad.
I just
Go
missed
ahead.
it.
I'll shut up. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say the quarterback thing. I mean, it's kind of that's where it is. I mean, I think this week will play out a little bit, and we'll probably know a little bit more by this time next week. I know people are like wanting hour by hour updates, and I'll be honest, I don't really know even how to get them. I mean, I'm trying to get in touch with Longstreet, though he and Deuce Knight signing together don't make a lot of sense. And um, if Lagway visits, here's the interesting thing about Lagway that I was going to say earlier. John Summerall met with DJ Lagway and did not walk away impressed with his commitment to learning offense, with his commitment to team. John Summerall and Pete Golding are pretty similar guys. Um, you know, I would think DJ Lagway would have some impressing to do with Ole Miss. I don't know that this would be as simple as here are the keys. It's your offense. Go. Kind of I'd kind of be surprised by that. So, even though Lagway is reportedly coming in for a visit, I would not read into that Ole Miss is absolutely, definitely ready to hand him a pile of cash and make him the starting quarterback if Chambliss isn't cleared to play. And then if I'm DJ Lagway, I'm not coming to Ole Miss if there's a real chance that Chambliss is going to be able to play because Trinidad's going to beat me out.
It it's very possible that this is Lagway setting up visits trying to convince the schools to take him. I mean, that's not out of the realm of how this could or could not go at this point. I think, yeah. Again, just catch up on news here. I know that everybody was reporting Baylor for Lagway, but he is trying to hold off on a public commitment for that before he can take some visits to other places. And Ole Miss keeps being predominantly mentioned in those conversations. But yeah, I think it's Lagway setting up visits to convince high level programs that he can lead their football teams. I think that's where we are.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Um, trying to get back to the screen. I don't know. Can you still see me?
You're black, but it's okay. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Neal just accidentally hung up on the stream. He'll be back in a second when he figures it out. It's okay. In the meantime, yeah, look, I'm with him. I don't think it's some just automatic pull of, hey, here's $3 million and all the keys to a program that just went to the college football playoff semifinals. You're the dude. So
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen for him. So I don't know. I mean, I get why fans are frustrated and pressing for answers, and I don't blame you a bit. I don't have them, and I will caution you that anybody who tells you that they do, I think they're probably misleading you.
we didn't talk about it. Uh, Obviously, a very difficult place last night. A lot of emotion in a lot of different directions as it ended. What did you kind of pick up from Pete and players and just general post game stuff last evening?
I mean, it reminded me of a NCAA tournament team that had just lost after making a long run. The reality hits you fast that this ride is over, that you were right there. I think for Ole Miss it was twofold. I think on one hand, you spent the night really getting beat at the line of scrimmage, and yet you're in the game. And so I think they probably really went back, and they were still kind of living off a handful of plays, a missed tackle, a missed scoring opportunity, just a failure to make a couple of stops on third down. I think they were upset about a couple of calls. I think there was a third down conversion for Miami where they clearly got away with the hold. There was some talk about the pass interference on the final play that was absolutely pass interference. But for the most part, I think it was just a realization that, hey, this was a special group that overcame a lot. I mean, their head coach literally abandoned them, literally quit on them to go to a rival before a playoff run began. And they won 2 games. They beat Georgia. They won the Sugar Bowl. They played a Miami team to the final play of the game in the Fiesta Bowl. They have nothing to hang their heads over, and yet at the same time, they were, in their words, pissed off because they believed they were going to win, and they were incredibly disappointed to be that close to playing for the national championship, and that opportunity went to Miami and not them. So there was a lot, there was pride and disappointment. And, I thought Jaden Williams, I thought he was really interesting. It was interesting. That's the first time we've talked to him all year, which tells you that he and Lane didn't get along. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it does. He just said that start wasn't them. And even though they overcame the start on the scoreboard, I do kind of think the start played into the end. They were so tired defensively. They almost 42 minutes of possession for Miami, 28 more plays, if I remember right, 88-60, I think. Those are big
I can't
numbers,
believe it's
man.
that close in some ways. They ran 20 something in the first half.
In the first quarter, minus 1 yard,
91-63.
and yet, okay, 91-63. Yeah, that's just a stunning disparity. The fact that you could have that number and the time of possession number and still have a legitimate chance to win the game is remarkable. And so I'm sure there was a lot. Kiwan got hurt. He was basically a decoy in the second half. I thought Diego Pounds had a phenomenal game. But they were gassed at the end defensively. They're not a deep defense this year. They lost Andrew Jones early. It was a huge setback for them. Um, you looked up and, man, they were having to play. They were having to go deep into that secondary to try to find people that could be effective. Uh, Miami ran that screen game really effectively. I thought Carson Beck had some bad throws that he got away with. So did Trinidad. Um, but he kind of made some plays as Trinidad did. They ended up both kind of having, I thought, pretty good field games, if you will. At the end of the day, Miami just made one more play, and that's going to be hard to live with for a while. And I think they know that, and Pete knows that. But here's the deal: when you lose a game like that, you you know where you lost it, and you know what you have to fix, so that then you have a better opportunity the next time you're on that stage. And for Ole Miss, they've got to have more depth up front. They've got to be better at linebacker, and they have to be better in the secondary. That secondary, you think of all the times this season that it almost burned them. Kentucky, Arkansas, hell, Washington State. You think about how many times it almost burned them, and then last night it got them. You know, they just couldn't get off the field. I think Miami converted 11 third downs, 2 fourth downs. That's a lot of staying on the field. And, 400 and I don't remember how many yards. Just that's, again, 42 minutes of possession. That's a lot to overcome. And they almost did it.
Yeah, Ole Miss's path was the offense to look like it needed to look. They had been so fortunate with injuries the entire season, in between Lacey and Williams for a minute, and Andrew Jones was a big loss at linebacker there for Ole Miss. You get bit by the bug a little bit, and the two things defensively that have just completely haunted Ole Miss all year, if something can haunt you when you go 13-1 to date, is not getting off the field on third down, especially in that intermediate range when you're got them behind the sticks a little bit, and missed tackles. Ole Miss misses a lot of tackles,
Yep.
and you don't pin it on one thing, but there was multiple times where if you just get a guy to the ground, it either gets them off the field or it changes the number of points that they're going to score there at that point. I mean, the one that everybody keeps looking back to is when Centurion has Tony's leg and nobody came to help wash and finish it, and he couldn't get him to the ground. It led to a first down and led to 4 more points on the board a couple plays later. That was an incredibly critical play in that game.
Yeah, it was. It was a 4-point game, a 4-point play. That being said, Malachi Tony was the best player on the field last night, and he was very hard to bring down. He was very elusive, incredible athlete. Um, you can see why everybody recruited him. Um, yeah, I mean, those games never come down to one play. That was one big play for sure. And yet Ole Miss made plays. I mean, they did some great things in that game to give them a chance. But I did think fatigue got them late. 7 days ago they played really turnaround, got going on, and you've got the flight to Arizona, and one that first quarter where even though the scoreboard said 3-0, if you were watching that game, that's watching this probably, it didn't feel like 3-0.
We'll give him a second to see if he comes out of that range or not right there. Again, first time we had the issue, so I'm actually somewhat impressed that we have made it this far in the middle of Oklahoma, including next to Chakotah, before we ran into this problem. What he was talking about was just the emotional energy that Ole Miss had put into the Georgia game a week ago, and then last night, just again, 8 plays in the first quarter for Ole Miss is what it would be. I mean, Jeffrey pointed it out. They had a 73-yard run and had 72 total yards. there at that point when Lacey went and scored the first touchdown and did bring Ole Miss to their first score there at that point. Yeah, that's a tough one. You're one play away in any capacity, one play away. And you look at the things you didn't do well. Sometimes when you do that, you don't necessarily even it up. Miami dropped 4 interceptions. They missed a field goal as well in the game last night. Lucas Carnero was awesome. I accept zero Lucas Carnero slander. He's the best kicker in the country. He had a 50-plus yarder bang off the upright. Otherwise, he was perfect, including from 58 there at one point. Getting to a couple super chats we got. Austin, thank you. Good to see you. I know you've had a tough situation with the loss today and last night, hurting a lot of people. I definitely understand that. He says the reason we rushed 4 primarily is because the secondary is not great. You drop extra bodies back for that reason. This one ripped my heart out. Yeah, again, 18 seconds, one play. I mean, you're probably in your head trying to just find a way to get them to kick a field goal in your mind, going, hey, let's just go to overtime. We'll figure it out from there, keep them out of the end zone. You probably have a lot of different emotions as that is as that was being played out. A lot of missed penalties on both sides. The refs were not very good last night. It was not completely one-sided either way. I mean, it should have been a pass interference penalty on the last play. He completely drug him down. I saw one of the NFL broadcast officiating analysts concur with that earlier today. Again, you very rarely get it called. Although, ironically, one of the few times it has been called, I saw Jen Lauren, one of our great listeners, mentioned it on the board today, was when Ohio State and Miami were playing, and Ohio State ended up winning the game because of a flag there on the final play. Stephen, thank you for the Venmo. Always appreciate those. Again, if you put Venmo in the comments, we will appreciate that. I'll still read you, try to shout you out. Says diehard South Carolina Gamecock fan, but love the show. I do really appreciate all the different fans from the different schools and not around the SEC and around the country, not just the Ole Miss fans that are here with us. So, Stephen, good to see you. Yeah, we do have 3 or 4 South Carolina fans that are in the stream pretty often. I notice several Gamecock logos when we're on YouTube, and I see comments, and you've got some type of South Carolina logo going there. Neil, you're back. Looks like your service is pretty good. We're kind of getting close to wrapping up. We just wanted to hit on a few things today. Is our podcast schedule normal next week?
Yeah, I think so. We got to figure out what we're doing about basketball. But yes, at least yes.
They play Missouri tomorrow at 5:00.
Yeah, can't tell you how excited I am. I mean, I can't wait. That's going to be awesome.
I'm just kind of waiting. I'm good. Ole Miss did say today, and this was already planned. This was not something because of the attendance or anything this week. If you did want to go to the game, $10 that they'll give you a seat in the student section because the students aren't back. They're not back for another 10 days or so. You can sit in the student section and get a free Ole Miss tumbler with a $10 purchase for tomorrow's game at 5:00. So just FYI there. As we go. What are you doing? You getting gas?
I got to get gas. I'm way close to empty.
He's only filling up at a Shell because there are no Blue Skies or Exxons in Oklahoma that the Craddock family owns. As we're having this. Oh, I love. Sorry. Okay, I just saw the yellow and made the guess.
I'm supporting the Thunder right now since I can't go to a Blue Sky.
Okay.
I'm kidding. It was the only place to stop, and I was a little concerned.
There were 4, I think, media members covering Arkansas at the game on Wednesday night. I think it was 4. Yeah, I think there were 4. Calipari was fine. He was a little shorter than usual because he was very frustrated that the fog was keeping them in Oxford and they were not going to be able to fly out from Oxford. to get back to Fayetteville. They were going to have to go to Memphis to do that, and he was not ecstatic about that. Um, no, I was not the only Ole Miss media member that was at the game on Wednesday night. Chris Burrows, who covers for the AP, was there. Strings for the AP. Chuck Rounsaville was there. Um, yeah, we'll just stop there. Chuck was there. Talk to Chuck. Um, Neil got the joke. It's fine. All that matters. Yeah, Neil, don't put your credit card number in any way on the camera where they can see what you're putting into the gas pump.
I didn't.
Okay, making sure.
There's A1 Excavating and Utilities. They're getting gas here on a Friday.
We've been a little. You can hit the. You can mute that. Is that on the screen or is that somebody else talking?
No, that's the lady on the. She's trying to sell me Doritos and Lay's right now. You can get two for $4 inside Love's.
I do think if Neil missed anything from the game, it was the performance that Darius Acuff put on because he was extremely good on Wednesday night. Although I will say Brazil's the one that I thought actually made sure Arkansas won that game. He just answered every single time Ole Miss made any sort of run. About early to midway through the second half, Dia hit a couple
But he
shots, got
got,
Ole Miss within
but
five, and then Brazil would go down and hit a three, and it was just boom, 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 boom.
but Brazil got those looks because Acuff is so devastating off the dribble. Defenses have to collapse on him because he can score at the rim. And when defenses collapse on him, he's a very good passer. And you give guys like Trevin Brazil open looks from three, they're going to knock them down.
I will say this as we talk a couple minutes of hoops before we get out of here is that Ole Miss did not play bad on Wednesday night. I actually thought that they gave pretty good effort. They had the big comeback. They went on a 10-1 run late to get within four, and Patton Pinkins threw up a three really early in the shot clock on kind of a halfway break opportunity, and it clanged off the rim. Would have got them to one, and somebody went down. It was Acuff. He goes down, either gets two free throws or a bucket. Cameron gets a bucket to get it back to four again. Acuff hits another bucket, and that was it. Arkansas ends up winning by 7 in the game. But Chris Beard, and we'll probably get to it tomorrow. Again, we've had a lot of football. It's not been the conversation, but his quotes I thought were interesting on Wednesday night. He discussed that run there at the end was the most fun he had had since Sean Padula was on the court for Ole Miss. He specifically mentioned Padula first before he got into a couple other players and a couple things. He talked about pacing, that he's really trying to get his team to hurry up and go, and they don't do that, that they stall out, they slow down, they stick with the ball. He then goes into this deal of you got to read into it a little bit, and I thought there was some nuance, but I thought he was also speaking some truth and not doing it directly. He mentioned that sometimes you don't go with pace because the talent level does not allow that you can make more mistakes dependent on your talent level when you go with pace, and there's something about his team that was not allowing that. I said it a little more straightforward than he did, but when he finished the quote and I went back and listened to it, because you don't always catch it in real time, my ears perked up a little bit. And it's the first time I told Neil this. I don't cover them day to day, so it was not my job at all to columnize that game or to give more thoughts. But Chris Beard was in a really good mood on Wednesday. And if you're still holding out some sort of, hey, what can this team be? I think that might bother me as an Ole Miss fan because it showed that he was proud of effort, and that was sort of just where they are right now. That they got really good effort, and he's trying to build them up in that way. And it was not the fire and brimstone or the early in the year when he brings all 5 starters in or anything. He was as pleasant as Chris Beard can be following an SEC loss at home to Arkansas. Really was.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, he's probably going to start to talk about, where this went wrong, kind of where they evaluated some guys wrong. Maybe some guys don't fit. I think there are a couple of chemistry issues that that are involved, but they played hard. Arkansas is a good team. I mean, Arkansas is definitely a second weekend caliber team that could go further. If they'll play like that, they'll end up winning some league games, and it's not going to be the disaster that some people are predicting that it might be. But obviously, it's not going to be a team that does some of the things that this team. I think this team thought it was going to do. And to me, the most interesting story right now with this team is that they thought they were going to be really good. Why are they not as good as they thought they were going to be? And it's a little early to do that when a team's 0-2 in an 18-game schedule. So, there's a few more games that have to be played, I think, before you can truly dive into that. But that's sort of the storyline that I think has to be told at some point if this team doesn't have a big rebound. I do think Saturday night for them against Missouri is big. And now Missouri's 2-0. They've beaten Florida. They've beaten Kentucky. They're playing with some confidence. And I'm sure they look at Ole Miss right now and go, boy, this is an opportunity to steal one. So, you're going to get that. And 0-3 that'd be tough.
It's 0-3, Neil, with this schedule. Yeah, let me read this out. I got it in front of me. Here's the next kind of slew of games for Ole Miss following Missouri tomorrow at 5 o'clock at the Pavilion. At Georgia, at Mississippi State, Auburn at home, at Kentucky. I get Kentucky kind of sucks, but it's at Rupp. Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Vanderbilt at Tennessee, at Texas, Alabama. Whew.
Oof.
That's a stretch.
Yeah, it's a stretch. And that's the thing, it's like the conversation I had with Porter Moser in Oklahoma 6 days ago, and Chris sort of said the same things in response to Barry Trammell's question is, for all the talk about the league being down, when you look at the league, you go, well, who's bad? The answer is not many. Like, LSU's pretty good. Vanderbilt's really good. Alabama's really good. I think South Carolina's probably bad. A&M's not bad. They went to Auburn and won. Auburn's not nearly as good as it's been in the past, but it's just it's not that everybody's great, but nobody's horrible. Like, Ole Miss has now played two teams, Oklahoma and Arkansas, that are going to make the tournament. And they were in both of those games late. Now, they lost them both in sort of similar fashion, but they were in both of those games. Neither Oklahoma nor Arkansas just blew Ole Miss out. That's the weird part of it. The weird part about the league is they don't have the metrics that they had this time a year ago, but I'm not sure there's as much. I still think it's a pretty solid top to bottom league where it's just going to be hard to accumulate a lot of wins.
Yeah, that's where it is now. We'll get to that more on Monday. We'll have a little more sample size because of Missouri tomorrow. Again, 5 o'clock at the Pavilion for that. So just be aware. We'll have coverage, Rebels247.com for that. And then any portal news that we can scrounge up today. Ole Miss does have some visitors in this tonight. I mean, you mentioned it in passing, Neil. I can't imagine how tired Pete Golding is at this moment. I mean, just nonstop and no sign of it for at least the next 12 to 14 days.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine how these guys are all going to get sick. As soon as the portal thing is done and the window is closed and they've actually finished assembling their roster, these guys are going to get sick. I mean, there's no way that their immune systems are at full throttle right now. There's no chance. I mean, I can't even imagine how absolutely exhausted Pete Golding must be.
That's where the Trinidad Chambliss situation sits currently. Again, we will bring you any content that comes from that. Tom Mars, his next move, Ole Miss has said outright they will appeal to the NCAA Committee for Appeals, and we'll see where that goes. And in the meantime, trying to find quarterback options, probably two of them, with one of them being Deuce Knight. That should pop soon and then whomever else joins that quarterback room for the Rebels. The season ends 13-2 for Ole Miss. NCAA CFP semifinals. Again, a lot of coverage up. Rebels 24/7. We'll have snap counts in the morning. Got some other thoughts on the season, some other content items. So we'll continue to look back and look forward at the same time. That's what we try to do and do well. Neal will make his way a little closer to Oxford. We'll see how far he gets today on that trip, and then we'll be back with you. We think pretty normal week for the podcast starting on Monday. We'll see what happens between now and then. But hey, really appreciate you guys here on this Friday afternoon. Take care, be safe, getting back to wherever you're coming from. If you're in Phoenix, I know thousands of you were, and we'll talk to you again very soon.